Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everyone and welcome along to round 7 of the AOR Hype Season 20 PCF1 League. We are here at the home of motorsport, the home of Formula 1, where it all began 70 years ago. The Great Silverstone Circuit here in Northamptonshire for the British Grand Prix. Easily one of the best Grand Prix on the calendar for a multitude of reasons. Many factor into being many fans' home race, producing amazing crowds, but of course we need not think about that. We're interested in the racing, and what racing it promises to be at one of the most exciting circuits of the season. 2 DRS zones, as well as the 18 turns, most of which are classic names in the Formula 1 vocabulary book. Copse, Maggots and Beckett, Stowe, Vale, etc. all will be challenged by their drivers tonight, not just in the 26 lap race that we have ahead of us, but also in the 18-minute qualifying session too. As we are in the glorious country of England, weather can be and will be an unpredictability, so although it might be dry in qualifying, rain could well appear in the race. Just like in Austria last week at the start, and that made things a little bit spicy, and hopefully, Jens, we can have a race as good as Austria this week, maybe even a finish as good as it too.
Yeah, it would be amazing if we could get that once again here today. Of course, last week in Austria we saw a very exciting ending to the race, and of course we hope for that to come once again, and I'm sure that these drivers will be happy to produce something like that.
So welcome everyone, this should be quite an interesting Grand Prix. We only have 11 drivers, but they should be all equally matched, and this is definitely a circuit where overtaking is definitely possible. Obviously, you've got the 2 DRS turns down the Wellington and the Hanger Straight. So it should be a fascinating Grand Prix, and obviously qualifying looks very overcast. So I said weather might be an unpredictability, but it might turn rain, or the clouds might disappear during this qualifying session. We have 16 minutes to go, so still a lot of time left for the weather to make its mind up. But as it stands, it is still overcast, dry conditions. Everyone everyone is out on the soft compound tyre. You imagine that's what the drivers will be qualifying on. The mediums, so. I mean, we have seen in the past so far this season that some drivers tend to qualify on the alternate strategy, and has worked out. I mean, Brown is probably the big example in Baku. But yeah, the softs will be the predominant tyre in the qualifying session. We should be seeing very competitive times, but who from? That's what the drivers have to find out themselves.
Yeah, you must say, and something to remember for the race. Now that we are in qualifying, normally drivers starting in the top 10 will have to start on the tyre that they qualified on, but because we have less than 15 drivers here today, we are doing it in a way where we restart the session or the lobby, and the drivers will be starting the race with a free choice of tyres. So even though you qualify in the top 10, you do not necessarily have to start on that tyre. You can start on whatever tyre you want. Therefore, we will most likely, with about 100% certainty, see every single driver here today qualify on the soft tyre instead of a medium or hard either.
And the good thing about this is that the drivers can take more risks. You can push 10% more than you would ideally want to in qualifying, because you have no recollection. You don't even care about the race. These tyres are being completely scrapped because of the brand new lobby. Whereas in a normal session, you would obviously have to start the race on the tyre you set your lap time on, and obviously you don't really want to be starting on very wearing tyres and have to pit very early on, because just like in many Grand Prix, the softs, as quick as they are, aren't very durable, and that is the same at Silverstone. We have some times on the board. Warren on provisional pole, his teammate Paris obviously 2 wins on the bounce for the Red Bull driver. He can make it a hat-trick at his home Grand Prix tonight. Obviously took the win in dramatic fashion, only winning by a tenth, or less than a tenth of a second from Tom last week out at a very thrilling Austrian Grand Prix with many, many incidents and many, many spiced drama. So hopefully, as I said, we could have a similar Grand Prix tonight. And Paris, currently, I think the Red Bull guys are playing the team game and actually giving each other the toes down particular straights. Well, I think Warren gave Paris some slipstream down towards Beckett's. I'll see if that can aid Paris in his first flying lap. And has gone to provisional pole from Tom, from Warren, but they are separated by the finest of margins, less than a tenth of a second separating the top 3. Can Paris join in that battle? He can, and go pole by 500ths of a second from Andrea. So that DRS, that's a little bit of slipstream helping, and obviously, well, you'd imagine Andrea will want the same help from Scrippy, and Tom will want the same help from FK Gaming, because that might be where they're losing a bit of time.
Yeah, just about a lap ago, when Brown or Rainbow was coming to the end, or that must have been the beginning of his lap that he's on now, he was right in front of Brownie. Brownie was trying to get a bit of slipstream of his teammate, and they were trying to play the team game coming down the hangar straight. But coming through Stowe, it was clear that they got a bit too close to each other and nearly crashed each other out. And that just shows that the team game can be very valuable to play, but it is also very dangerous if you don't get it right. And you can easily, at the end of a straight, if you don't get out the way in time, you can lose each other's time or destroy complete lap times as well.
Yeah, teamwork can make the dream work, or it could be the downfall of a particular afternoon. But as it stands, the teamwork at Red Bull has been stellar pretty much. I mean, Paris and Warren have been teammates since both seasons started, obviously initially in the Haas and then changing into the Red Bull, and obviously that's earned Paris 2 wins on the bounce, whereas Warren hasn't had the same luck, but he has had a few podiums here or there and has generally been up there in the past few races, and obviously in qualifying at the moment is well in contention in P4 at the moment, just about a tenth behind his teammate as he comes out now for his second outlap. We have himself, Failer, Christian, Michael Tinitza, all on outlaps. Brownie and FK Gaming are also on outlaps. They are 2 of the 4 drivers yet to set lap times. I'm going to double check Race Director and see if they might have got their lap times invalidated. Not really, actually. We got, if anything, we've just got speeding at the pit lane warnings. FK Gaming is the only one to have had their lap time validated, which is a stark contrast to what we saw in Austria, where we saw lap times validated more often than actual valid lap times. So, yeah, nearing the halfway stage, the drivers keeping it clean so far on the surface, but maybe we'll see a few more mistakes or whatnot. Drivers pushing a little bit too hard come the latter stages, because yeah, we're still seeing some banker lap times in, and yeah, it's 10 minutes ago in this qualifying session, and it's looking really competitive at the front. Let's see how that continues.
Just before, you talked about how penalties and lap times was riddled through the last Grand Prix and the whole weekend last week. But looking at this track, it is not that big of a penalty provider. Of course, you have some easy spots to get one, especially is out of Cops and Stowe, easy corners where you just might go a bit too wide to try and maximize the speed you get through there. Other corners where you might be able to cut a little bit and get a lap time invalidated is through the Maggots and Beckett's complex. Maybe you go a bit too much on the curb to try and minimize the corner. For example, coming into Maggots, you're trying to make Beckett's as small as possible, and it's a place where we might be able to see, if not lap times be deleted, but at least through the race, we might be able to see a couple of penalties and warnings be given out through the Grand Prix.
I'm just on board with Michael Tinnett. Through that stow, you can take a very wide line, the infamous Daniel line, has been established for the past few years. I don't think most drivers are taking to that, and you can see the Red Bull gang are playing their part. Warren getting the aid of the slipstream from Paris. Let's see where that puts him in perspective to his teammate and to Jan Fehler, who has taken provisional pole recently. But Warren takes it back to Red Bull, but in his favour compared to Paris. As I say, the times are tumbling, but very close still between what, and now Andernator takes provisional pole, so times are getting quicker. We're into the 123s. Pole time should realistically not be that much quicker than this. A mid to high 123 predicted, and yeah, Andernator Warren dipping in there, whilst Fehler just outside, and Paris, of course, set on his second attempt, and Tom 97 coming to the end of his second attempt. So let's see what the championship leader can conjure up. Round the final corner he comes now, and up towards the line. Third fastest, but he has also gone into the 123s, 2 thousandths behind Warren in P3. It's getting very, very tight, and we've still got 7 minutes to go, so these drivers can go even faster.
Yes, certainly, and you can see here just on board with Paris, you can see in the right hand side that track map is red, meaning you got lap time invalidated. So once again, as we talked about just before, even though it might not be as bad for track limits, it is still a track where you need to watch out for the track limits and the penalties that you can get. Although looking at that time, he didn't actually improve, even though it got invalidated. That might have had something to do with him just saving his car a bit here, but unfortunately it doesn't look like he has fuel to go for another attempt. But luckily for him, there is 6 minutes and 20 seconds left in this qualifying session. That should be plenty of time for him to come around, come into the pits, change tyres, get some fuel, and come out for his final attempt.
Interesting that Rainbow retired from this session. I must have missed that. I don't know whether he retired in the pit lane or he might have had an off somewhere, but yeah, Rainbow is out of qualifying. Won't mean that much in terms of the race, because obviously starting down in P11 and last, everyone will get fresh choice of tyres, so I don't know if that was tactical in his part or not, but I don't think it'll work out, especially it won't work out in qualifying. So he's the only one who didn't set a lap time on the board. Everyone else has, and the field separated by 0.8 of a second from Andernator down to Michael Tinnett, but the top 5 separated by near enough 0.2 of a second. So as we approach the final few minutes and the melee that will occur, it could be anyone's game really. I think from first to fifth, maybe FK Gaming can sneak in there. He's been quick on what lap pace, but I think realistically it's either Andernator, Warren, Tom, Fehler or Paris's pole today. We'll have to wait and see though. It's going to be the finest of margin to see who will take pole. It's going to be that little inch of magic to do so, and who's got that in their back pocket. Let's find out.
Yeah, very much. And just before we dive into the final mad dash, let's just have a quick onboard lap here with Brownie coming through the first couple of corners. First Abbey Farm, then into Village, before making his way up to the loop there, trying to go as far to the right as possible to make the corner easy to take so you can go flat out as quickly as possible. Then flat out through Aintree before coming onto the Wellington straight, before it's a hard braking zone into Brooklands, taking the left-hander, again trying not to go too wide because you have a right-hander coming straight after of Luffield before going flat out onto the old start-finish straight that was used up until 2010 through Woodcut there, that final small cut. And then just that quick Copse corner, taking that right-hander mostly flat out in all conditions. Then into Maggins and Beckett's there, but he cuts the corner a bit too much, like we talked about, going a bit too far to the right, getting his lap time validated, but it looks like he's still going. Came through Chapel there, onto the hanger straight, opening the DRS, then coming down to Stowe, a bit of braking, 2 gears down, braking with the engine, and then a flat out again. He decides to go into the pits and changing his tyres instead of taking it through the Vale chicane and in through Club.
It's going to be tight with time, you know, because this is I think, the slowest pit lane of the season. Drivers are stuck at 60 kph compared to the usual 80, so obviously they're going very slow, and it's a very long pit lane as well. So hopefully Brownie will have enough time. Hopefully Thaler will have enough time to come back out and go again. Thaler obviously up in P4. We have 3 minutes to go this qualifying session, and then is out on the track, as is Warren. So the top 2 out on the track, as is Michael Tanitza, and everyone else is in the pits waiting and just biding their time until the track is at its grippiest. And they can make the full use of it, although Andrea wants to go out early, and he's not doing a bad job, but he is down on his provisional pole time, but could make that up in the Vale chicane. Heavy braking into here, now getting on the power as soon as possible. I don't think it'll be improvement. It isn't. Oh, it is. It is by about 200ths of a second there. So, I mean, that might be good enough for pole. We'll have to wait and find out. Andrea can go again, but we'll have to wait and see if he got enough fuel. He has a fuel light flashing warning, so I don't think he can. So that's Andrea done for this qualifying session, and now he set the gauntlet. And can Warren beat him? Can Tom beat him? Can Thaler beat him? What about Paris? Can he beat him? Can SK Gaming get close? What about everyone else? As it stands there, Andrea is on provisional pole, but you can do absolutely nothing about it.
The final 2 minutes, 1 minute 45 seconds, 1 minute 23.905. That is the time to beat. The drivers coming out of the pit lane, coming out onto the track for what many sees as that final mad dash. It's where the track is at its grippiest. It's where you get the quickest times. Warren currently out on track, getting a bit of help from his teammate now on the hanger straight. He put it purple in sector number 2. Has the DRS wide open, coming through Stove now. He will be the second driver to set their lap time during this final time. And Donator was the first one. Now Warren is going to come across the line. He'll come through Chapel now. Up to the line he goes. Oh, and it is a 123.8. It's a new provisional pole position. Then it will be Michael Tanitza, I believe, to come across the line up through Club. Coming up to the line. Sets a lap time. It's a 124. Then it will be Brownie. Yes, it will, across the line to start their lap time. Anyone finishing their lap time just yet? It doesn't look like it. It's like we're having drivers starting their lap times currently. Could Matt Scrippy now to come across the line to start their lap time. FK Gaming as well. Now it's just to see over on the map. I believe Paris will be the next driver to come across the line. Currently on the old start finish straight. Then he'll come through Copse corner. And then on the hanger straight after Maggots and Beckett. He'll get a bit of help from his teammate, it looks, of Warren. Warren already going through Maggots and Beckett. Already set his lap time as there. The checkered flag falls. Time has run out. The 5 red lights are on when you cross the start finish line. Paris sets purple in sector 2, getting help from his teammate there, cutting it oh so close, getting out of the way. Warren does there, but he gets out nicely. Very, very close between those. I believe a centimetre more and there would have been contact. Now into the Vale chicane, and it will be through Club. He goes up to the line. What time will it be? It will be a 1 at 23.9 and only good enough for 4th place. Then it will be Brownie to cross the line next. Brownie down in 9th place, 5/10 up to Warren on provisional pole. Will he be able to improve? He does, but it's not enough. Then it's Failer. Failer puts it on provisional pole now. Then it'll be Christian to cross the line. Will he be able to challenge? No, he won't. Then it'll be Andinator, I believe, there. Andinator in the pit. Then it'll be FK Gaming to cross the line. FK Gaming, guys, lap time validated. Then it'll be Tom across the line for 4th place. So that means that Failer takes pole position with a 123.785.
Second pole of the season for the German. And he left it right at the death. I said before, he's cutting it close, coming into the pits with about 3 minutes to go. But he managed to get back out there, put a brand new set of soft compound tyres on, and he used them to full effect, taking, second pole position of this season. And what a lap it was, and how competitive that qualifying session was. The top 5 separated by under 0.2 of a second. I said it could have been anyone in the top 5. Well, Paris had provisional pole at one stage, so did Warren, so did Andrea, and so did Failer, but Failer had it when it mattered most, at the end of the session. And we have, if the grid is this competitive and this close, the racing should be very interesting indeed. The widespread of field, or the field widespread is, well, there's a bit of a gap between P5 and P6. And Michael Sinitzer is a little bit off the pace, but race pace could be a completely different thing, and maybe, who knows, we might see a completely different weather for the race. We'll have to wait and find out. But yeah, here we go for the little break before the race gets underway as we reorganise the grid and reorganise the lobby. Yeah, Failer on pole for the second time this season, and yeah, really good luck from him.
Yeah, you certainly must say the driver's very close, and the driver's putting in some great lap times. We will be back shortly with the British Grand Prix, the race itself, all 26 laps. But first, let's take a small break and get everything organised. Until then, take care. then, welcome back to what will be the race, the 26 lap race for the British Grand Prix. 26 laps round Silverstone that will be ready to show you in just a moment. The drivers are readying up, tweaking their setups and choosing the tyre that they want to start on, and the formation lap is just about to begin. So, James, what do you think this race will have on show for us?
Hopefully a good one. Is that too much to ask? Hopefully not. Silverstone is always one of the highlights of the calendar. So, we should be expecting racing aplenty. And, given the grid, given the qualifying, I should say, we should be in for a fascinating one. Although it is, unfortunately, it is clear skies, but quite sunny as well with a few clouds. So, rain may not happen, although I have seen dramatic weather changes in my time in England, so who knows?
Yeah, of course. We saw it in last week's race as well, around the Austrian Grand Prix, where it started very wet. You could almost say it was full wet. Most of the drivers, or all the drivers, started on the intermediate tyres, and then it clearing up quite quickly and very quickly becoming ready for slicks. So I'm wondering if we could see the same today, just in reverse, where it very quickly changes to the wet conditions, because you can see just on the left hand side of the screen, just where that bridge goes across, you can just see a bit of cloud cover over there, and you can also see a cloud over the beautiful Silverstone building. So it wouldn't surprise me if we all of a sudden saw a bit of a rain.
I'm interested what tyres everyone decides to go on to. Obviously, it will be a fresh set, and it looks to me from the initial camera slot that, Failer's on the mediums. What about the rest of the grid? It looks like everyone. Oh, Tom's on the softs, interestingly, but everyone else, apart from Michael Tinitza,
Tom and Michael
are on the mediums. So Tom going for the Carlos Sainz strat, trying to be quick in the early phases of the Grand Prix. He can maybe make that a one-stop work, softs to hards, but he's going to have to stretch that soft stint or hard stint, one of the two. Is going to be compromised somewhat. Obviously, the medium to hard strat is going to be the ideal one for the drivers to use. But interesting that Tom's taking the gamble. It made sense for someone like Michael Tinitza or Rainbow to do it, starting a bit further down. But Tom starting in P4, the championship leader, taking absolutely full risk into this. And let's see if it pays off. It might do. But we'll have to wait and see. 26 laps ahead of us. Tom's got home Grand Prix, Paris' home Grand Prix. I think it's Warren's home Grand Prix as well. So a lot at stake, sentimental value for the drivers. I know I'd want to do good at my home Grand Prix, and I'm sure these drivers want to put on a show tonight.
Yeah, of course, Silverstone and the British Grand Prix, also really known as the home of motorsport. It was where the first Formula 1 Grand Prix started, and it was one of the tracks that was in the first season of Formula 1 and has been with the season almost every year since then, making up for the one time it missed the Grand Prix, with this year hosting 2 Grand Prix here on Silverstone. So, of course, many things to show, and a track that's changed character a couple of times over the years. The current layout we've had since 2011. The drivers lining up on the newer part of the track, ready for the 5 red lights.
Here we go then. The track might have changed its layout, but still Silverstone at the heart. And we get ready for the 5 red lights, and when they go out, we are underway. For 26 laps ahead of us here at Silverstone, and it's a very good start from Failer. Very good start from Tom. Those quick soft compound tyres already up into P3, but Jan Failer keeps hold of the lead as we enter Village and into the loop. There goes Warren. Oh, and Tom locked up, and Anderlecht is going wheel to wheel with him through the loop. Warren looks like he's kept hold of that P1. Failer looks like he kept hold of that P1, but look at them go side by side. The McLaren and the Red Bull down towards Brooklands. as he head left in towards Sector 2. It looks like Failer's managed to keep hold of that lead. No, Warren going around the outside. This is great battling for the first place on the opening lap. And Warren's not giving this up without a fight. And he might actually he does take the lead. Going down towards Cops. The Red Bull is up and into the lead of the Grand Prix. Failer tried to fight that as hard as he could, but eventually had to give way because Warren just had so much more speed coming out of Lovefield and onto Woodcote. And now he takes the lead and looks like Failer's struggling a little bit because here comes Tom now on those quick soft compound tyres. Can Tom, as Michael Titz already got a 3-second time penalty on the opening lap, but here comes Tom now to take P2. Failer might lose 2 positions on the opening lap. It's not been a good start for the pole sitter. It's been a great start from Warren and Thomas. They lead 1-2.
Yeah, of course, a very good start initially for Jan Failer, and then just bogging down completely. Scrippy now retired from the session. I think he might have crashed into the pit lane, as there's yellow flags, no safety car. But on the, actually, virtual safety car has been deployed now. So Scrippy out of the Grand Prix. It looks like on the minimap, if you just look out there, he might have crashed. Coming into the pit lane, he was, I think he might have been involved in some contact on the first lap. Here you see Brownie coming into the pits. So on the first lap, there might have been some contact between him and Scrippy. Then on his way into the pits, he might have hit that pitboard divider and gone out of the Grand Prix, causing the now virtual safety car.
And obviously that's given Brownie some benefits, although he is way down the field. He must have had some contact. Maybe he had contact with Scrippy, although I'm not really sure how Scrippy managed to befall himself and end himself in the barrier, or in the pit lane barrier. Oh, that was Christian going very wide. As I think Brownie has had an incident of somewhat. I think he spun on those fresh tyres. But yeah, we're back on the green flags. That was a very short VSC period. Warren continues to lead from Tom, from Failer, Paris in 4th, Andernator in 5th. The time boards are playing fun and games. Elgato Gaming in 6th, and comes Michael Timnitzer, who already has 1 3-second time penalty, so he was pushing a little bit too hard on that opening lap. And, well, that doesn't bode well at all for the rest of his Grand Prix, carrying that burden for the rest of the remainder of this race's proceedings. He is just ahead of Christian and Rainbow. They are 7th, 8th, and 9th, while Brownie is apparently 11 seconds behind Rainbow, but it doesn't look like to me on the timing boards. But lap 3, DRS has now been enabled, and Tom is using that to great effect. It looks like Tom might be about to take the lead of the Grand Prix. Obviously, you would expect that given he's on the soft compound tyres. But let's see what Warren can give in terms of a fight. Will he fight Tom? They're on different strategies, of course. But Warren, obviously, very aggressive on the opening lap to take the lead of the Grand Prix away from Failer. He was successful in that bid, but can he be successful in keeping Tom at bay? Let's see, as he come out of Chapel and make their way onto the Hanger Straight, and with DRS, Tom is getting closer, and closer, and Warren defends the inside line, so he's showing his intent, forcing Tom a long way around, and Tom cannot find the space. The traction out on the outside of Stowe to get, and Michael Tierney to get his second 3-second time penalty, and we haven't even finished lap 3. 6 seconds already for Michael Tierney, so that is not good at all for the Williams driver, and if anything, we'll be keeping an eye out and see if he can actually finish this race or he gets qualified.
Michael Znitzer, he might not be able to fight in the championship with points, but he is certainly able to challenge for the world title of most penalties. Someone, I imagine, isn't in that fight is Tom. Tom now taking it round the outside for the lead. On lap number 4, around the outside of Brooklands of Warren. Then it'll be down the inside in Liftfield, but no, he's touched. He's touching off the track on the grass on the inside. So Tom, in that fight, maybe got a bit too eager, got a bit too squeezed to the inside, made contact with Warren, or Warren made contact with him, spun him round onto the grass. Tom falling down to 6th place now.
Oh, so we haven't seen Tom really get into any incidents. He's been one of the most clean, consistent drivers, but that is definitely an error on his part, or maybe on Warren's part. It looked like a fairly he just made the contact, really, just rear wheel to front wheel, and then Tom just, the innocent party, just being spun around because he was on the inside of the corner. Didn't look like it was either the driver's fault, just one of those things. Tom down to 6th, but can regroup. It's going to take a bit of a time for those tyres to get rid of all the grass and gravel and get back to the grip levels he was having before he had that incident. But he's down in P6 and just ahead, crucially, of Michael Sinitzer, who was also on the soft compound tyre. That would have been gruesome if he had to stay behind Michael Sinitzer. Thankfully for him, he is only in 6th, so you can still definitely see the leader still in his sights. He didn't lose too much time, but I doubt Tom will be caring about how much time he lost. It's the fact that he's lost so many positions down into 6th. Hopefully for him, he can regain his composure and carry that momentum that carried him forward for the first few laps, and get that back and then make up even more positions. But unfortunately for him, the one thing he's got to worry about is those soft compound tyres and how they're going to degrade very quickly, and will obviously not be in the best of shape in the next few laps. We'll see how long he can make those last, though.
Tom down in 6th place, might not be able to fight at the top anymore, but that doesn't mean that it isn't close. Currently, the top 3, Warren, Failer and Harris, actually Andinator, the top 4, Andinator behind as well there, all 4 covered with a very little gap, all within 1.3 seconds of each other. Quite nice to see that the fight for the lead can be so close there, and Andinator almost overtaking Harris through the first couple of corners into Village. But into Brooklands now, anyone going for the attack? Failer, it looked like he was thinking about it for a short second, but had to fall back once again now through Luffield. The corner we saw a couple of laps ago, Tom being spun round in. Then into Kopp's corner, a corner where you sometimes see drivers attack into. It can be quite the audacious attack, but if you have more grip than the other driver, you can get on the inside and squeeze them to the outside, maybe even bump them a bit off the track, and it can either be a very easy or very hard overtake. But now on to the Hangar Straight. It's very close between these two drivers, or these 4 drivers. Will Failer be attacking for P1? No, staying back. So does Paris and so does Andinator.
Tom gets past his teammate. That's one cleared from the recovery, although that was made a little bit easier given the fact that Elgato Gaming really didn't put up a fight. They worked together as a team, obviously, and Tom fast after the Grand Prix so far, quite quicker than the drivers ahead, and he would really hope that they start battling proper like he and Warren did, or how Warren and Failer did on the opening lap. But as it stands, they're just as they are running in formation, and Failer can't really gain with that DRS on Warren, and unsurprisingly Paris can't follow and gain on Failer, and neither can Andrea on Paris, because it all just cancels out, and we have the infamous slipstream train where drivers just the best solution is to just stay behind, because that's the quickest alternative. Although I'm sure Failer would love to get past Warren and take the lead back, but at the moment it doesn't seem very likely. Although things could change if he gets a good exit out of Chapel, things could be a little bit different. But no, it doesn't look like he got the best of exits there. Although, let's see how much he gained with the DRS and the slipstream and the ERS and whatnot. He gained about 0.2 of a second, but not that much in all honesty. He would need to be a little bit closer coming out of Chapel or coming out of Aintree to really mount a challenge on Warren. But as it sounds, Warren's still in the lead, like he's had pretty much since Luffield on the opening lap. So we start lap 8, and it's Warren, Failer, Paris, the 1, 2, 3. Look like that's Failer actually defending. It looks like from Paris. Paris right on McLaren's gearbox here. And Paris looking to make it a Red Bull 1-2 for the time being. But Failer obviously with that DRS, Paris really can't gain anything on the straights, and that's why he was a little bit optimistic to get past into turn 3, which is kind of one of the more obscure overtaking zones, but it still is a corner where overtakes can be done. That corner, as well as Vale, some of the low-speed corners of this circuit, can produce some overtaking, but obviously isn't as optimal or popular as the straights that they're coming onto now. We'll see if Paris can go for it on Failer. We'll see if Failer can go for it on Warren. Warren already making his one move. But yeah, Failer's too far behind at this point, since because of the slipstream train, nobody really starts to gain anything with that, and obviously stuck in the dirty air and whatnot caused them to lose time. So Warren still leads, but a lot of drivers ready to potentially take that lead if he makes a mistake.
Certainly, and just keeping an eye now. Coming into Village here, you see Paris trying to find the way around the outside, but Failer is defending well there on the inside and then just blocking off the inside once they come up to the loop, compromising Paris's exit just the slightest bit, meaning that he doesn't get onto the Wellington straight perfectly, meaning that he can't overpower that DRS that Failer gets. But whilst we were looking at this fight and how it turned out, Michael Tanitsa picked up another 3-second time penalty. So he's now at 9 seconds worth of penalties, and whilst that happened, he also fell down a couple of positions from 7th down to 9th. So Michael Tanitsa not having the best of races, and he is on that soft tyres, so he is at the stage of the Grand Prix where he would be having to attack and get up positions and build a gap, but no, he is in basically last place with Brownie behind him 48 seconds away almost. So Michael Tanitsa really struggling with this Grand Prix. This circuit clearly not fitting him very well. As they're now on lap number 9, starting of lap number 10, Tom goes into the pits, but he picks himself up a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So at a stage of the Grand Prix where he should be coming on to the hard tyre, on to the tyre he would probably go to the end of the Grand Prix, he picks himself up a time penalty, compromising the rest of this race. Actually going on to the medium tyre, so believing that they can go to the end possibly, or going on for a 2-stopper, but nonetheless getting a 5-second time penalty, compromising himself so much.
And you saw, well, we just know from many races so far this season that a lot of penalties can cost you. I think it was Andernator who, I think it was France maybe, who had the win because of his 5-second penalty, lost it. That could be the same in Tom's scenario. We know how close these drivers are. So close, so here comes Failer, essentially take the lead. Glad I kept my eye on that battle, otherwise I might have missed that. Looks like Failer couldn't get the job done on Warren, but trying to get to Vale. Late braking move from the McLaren, but Warren was responding to that very well indeed. But yeah, as I was mentioning, this grid is so compact that a 5-second penalty can really cost you. And that's why Michael Tanitsa is pretty much out of the running. Here goes Failer again. Potentially make a move into Village. Not quite. Can Paris capitalise on Failer not really having the best sector 1 there? It looks like Failer is getting a little bit more nitty gritty. He wants to get that move done before he makes the pit stops. And here he goes down the inside of Brooklands. Warren goes a little bit wide, and that aids Vayler in getting a move double. Here comes Warren now. Down the inside and protecting that lead very, very well indeed. Vayler is trying every move in the book, but Warren is defending absolutely brilliantly. And look at all four of them. You can cover them by a blanket. They're separated by not even a second. All four of them on the 11th lap of this Grand Prix. And we've still got a lot more action to come. And hopefully this action continues right until the checkered flag. Can Vayler get past once again? It looks like he's much closer to the Red Bull. And going into Stowe, they're going to be side by side. No! Vayler has the edge going through there. He's a car length ahead. And the McLaren is up and finally takes the lead of the Grand Prix for the first time since when he lost it from Warren. But they're still going wheel to wheel. Oh god, they don't want to go side by side through here, or do they? Well, they are. Vayler and Warren still going at it. Well, it looks like Vayler has finally got the job done. But this battle is going right to the end. And look at Andrea getting past Paris as well in the battle for P3. 4 cars separated by 4-5 car lengths, barely nothing between them. What a few laps of racing we've had so far. Vayler leads from Warren, from Andrea, from Paris, but all 4 of them are so close together, and that Paris taps Andrea there. Don't think he got any wing damage or whatnot, but this is a spicy battle.
Yeah, these drivers, they are so close. Not just on track, but also in terms of pace, meaning that it's so hard for them to overtake, meaning that if they dive it down the inside, the other driver will be able to get back at them. So this fight, I'm sure it's not over yet, although Vayler has already pulled out a 5/10 gap, but that might have had something to do with Andrenator trying to attack a bit. Now on to the hangar straight. Andrenator not opening his DRS. I've seen that happen a couple of times in this Grand Prix. Maybe there's some of a DRS failure for him that would be catastrophic in this fight. Let's hope that is not the case and it's just him saving himself, sitting back there in the slipstream trying to save a bit of fuel there. Oh, Warren coming through Vale, getting a bit too eager on the throttle, goes round, off the track he goes, spinning across the line. Where did he fall to? He fell to 7th place. So in the span of 1.5 laps, he fell from 1st position all the way down to 7th. First, getting overtaken by Jan Vayler. Then after that, just getting a bit too eager on the throttle, losing it in the dirty air, and just falling down.
And that leaves Andrea in P2. 2 Germans leading. German victory in England doesn't come too often. But it looks like they're on good course tonight. And Warren there making a rookie error there, just getting on the power a bit too early, coming through the final corner, and that's a very difficult corner to nail. It asks a lot of the car to go full throttle through there, and they got caught on the curb, and then Warren went spinning around, or half spin, and was lucky that he goes through, otherwise Paris would have T-boned him. But thankfully for Paris, he is still in the hunt in P3 though, although he is the lone Red Bull in the battle for the lead, which was originally 5 drivers. Now it's down to 3. But still, who's next to falter? Who's next? I mean, it could be the driver who comes into the pits. We still have the pit window. It should be opening in a few laps' time, maybe even this lap, to go to get off the medium tyres and go onto the softs or the hards, depending on what the drivers feel more comfortable in doing. Hopefully, they all go into the same set of compounds because we want to see them being as competitive as one another. And Andrea now right behind Jan Vayler as Tom sets another fastest lap. He's going on quite swimmingly, although he's down in P8. He's got loads of clean air whilst his rivals are battling it out for every inch of tarmac. So Tom's in good stead at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see if he can make those tyres last, of course. And obviously the Vayler and Paris will all have better tyres come the end of the Grand Prix, so it's going to have to be on the lookout for that. But We'll have to wait and see. These drivers start the pit, of course. The top 7 all after pits. Of course, it's only Tom, Michael and Brownie who have come into the pits. As Failer makes his way through Stowe, still ahead of Andone, and it looks like McLaren responds, as does Paris, in the Red Bull.
Oh, Failer!
Oh dear me. I've been in that situation. I think a lot of people have been in this situation when they've sped in the pit lane. It's just a rush of blood. You know, you want to come in as fast as possible because you don't want to lose any time whatsoever. And it's the finest of margins for Tom and Failer. And 5 seconds means a whole lot in terms of the end result. We'll see where they filter out though compared to Tom, who just crosses the line now as Failer gets up to full speed. Now, Tom comes into turn 1, into turn 2, and he's made the undercut work. So he's ahead of Failer and technically takes the net lead of the Grand Prix, as it looks like Michael Sinitza has had a spin. He has, coming through turn 1 and 2. So his afternoon gets even worse. But yeah, Tom, make that undercut work, but now he's got even more work to stop Failer and Paris on those fresh soft tyres getting past him, and that, I know Tom's a great driver, but I think that might be too much to ask for the championship leader.
You're now here on lap number 15. Jan Failer right behind Tom. It's very, very close between these two drivers. These 3 drivers, Paris right behind them as well. Now here comes Failer opening the DRS. Tom won't have any. He pulls to the left-hand side. Same does Paris behind. Paris tries to stay in the slipstream of Failer, and he does so. And Failer takes 4th place. Paris goes into 5th. And there Tom falls down to 6th. But looking at the speed there, Paris might actually be able to overtake Jan Failer in not too long, especially now that Failer will be losing the DRS. You saw Paris there right behind him as they overtook Tom, both of them. He had a lot of pace there. Oh, just keeping an eye on the right hand side there, as that was Animator coming out the pits. He'll be coming out in 4th place, right behind Tom there. And now they're going to come out to the Wellington Straight. Failer won't have any DRS. And it looks like Andinator won't have any either. So now at the back here, he won't be able to overtake Tom. But will Paris be able to get past Failer? No. He has to just stick behind for a couple of corners more. And then his next chance will most likely be at the end of the hanging straight coming into Stowe. But in the position he is, if he stays behind Paris, he can even fall behind Thomas, or if he stays behind Failer, he can even fall behind Tom as well and still win the Grand Prix, because Paris doesn't have a penalty. He is penalty free, whilst Failer and Tom both have 5 seconds worth of penalties. But you might not have to think about that, because down the inside now of Stowe, he goes into the lead of the Grand Prix on lap number 16. 11 laps to go, 10 laps to go as he crosses the line in a moment, and he's taking the lead. He'll have Failer behind him coming on to lap number 17. He sets the fastest lap, even though he had to make an overtake, just showing the amount of speed he's got in that Red Bull. Now Failer will be sitting behind, just punching himself so much for getting that 5-second penalty, because he knows if he wants to win the Grand Prix, he now needs to get back past, and he needs to pull out a 5-second gap.
And we've seen throughout these 17 laps that pulling ahead is just near on impossible. I don't think we've had a lead at the front that's been more than a second, which is good and bad news for Failer, because it means he's more than likely going to stick to Paris, and Paris won't set off. But obviously, if he does get past, then it'll probably just be the same thing, but the roles reversed. So it's going to be very difficult for Failer to gain that 5 seconds. He could take the lead back here, and he probably will do, and he does. That DRS is so effective. down towards Stowe, and the lead changes hands once again. But yeah, Andrea is the one I'm looking out for because it really is him and Paris for the win. Oh, Andrea a little bit laggy on my screen there. Thought he was turning left into a right-hander, but fortunately he wasn't, and he's still right behind Andrea. Paris, I should say, as Paris' teammate Warren sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix. As Paris locks up there, and that allows Andrea the opportunity to get past him around the outside of the loop, and he does a fantastic job of executing that move. Andrea gets past, and now he is in the net lead of the Grand Prix, ahead of Paris, just behind Failer. So yeah, the Mercedes leading as it stands, but on the track, Jan Failer continues to lead, and this squabble of 3 cars. Yeah, well, technically 4, because Tom is still right there. He's still within a second. He's done a fine job to stay within DRS range on these aging medium tyres. But you'd imagine he'll fall away whilst those medium tyres don't really get into shape on the softest cars. It's coming alive in the next few laps.
These drivers at the top here really showing how much that track is fitting them and how much they are in sync with their cars. But no matter how in sync with your car you are, you can't avoid any mechanical issues. And I believe that Andronator has been running around the last 19 laps without the help of DRS. As you will just, it looks like he hasn't been activating it, even though he's been within a second of other drivers. Now you can see the DRS is loading up down there. Let's just have a look. He doesn't open it, even though he's right behind Jan Failer here and going for the move for the lead down the inside into Brooklands. He's taking the lead, but at the same time I think he does have a DRS failure. It's not the first time it hasn't been activating on his car, and it's staying shut lap after lap, even though he's within a second of other drivers, which no matter how much in sync you are, you can't avoid it, and it sucks when it happens.
Well, he ain't going to need it now, is he? Because he's taking the lead. Failer, I don't know if you saw that one, very wide, coming out of cops. Thankfully, it looks like he can stay ahead of Paris. Yeah, I didn't see him open the DRS, but no, I did see him opening the DRS, but on the telemetry it just wasn't activating, so I don't know what's up with that. But I think he has had DRS because the overspeed he had on Failer down that straight was so mad that I don't really think that would have been possible without DRS. So I think Andrea is in the clear, although for these last 7 laps he's going to hope he won't need DRS because he'll stay ahead of the chasing pack. Chasing pack consisting of Failer, Paris and Tom. As it stands, it will be a podium of Andrea, Paris and FK Gaming because of Failer and Tom as penalties. If you look at the gaps, Failer will emerge behind Rainbow and Tom will emerge behind Rainbow and Christian. So as it stands, it will be obviously Andrea, Paris and FK Gaming 1, 2, 3. So an Alfa Romeo will be on the podium, but it won't be the championship leader and the one we would have expected coming into this Grand Prix, unless things can change. Obviously, there's only been one driver who's got a time penalty for corner cutting in this Grand Prix, and that's obviously Michael Sinitzer running way down the field in P9. The rest of them have kept it clean as a whistle, but in the last few laps, when they may push a little bit harder than before, so take a few more risks, might be seeing a few warnings. A few drivers are on the fringe. Andrea has got 1 warning, Failer has got 1 warning, Paris has 2, as does Tom. So some drivers are on the fringes of particular through-ticking time penalties, and they say if Andrea gets it, he's going to lose the win. Just like he did last time out, or 2 races ago, I should say, in France. But yeah, looks like a battle between Andrea and Paris for the win, but crucially, there's a car in between them.
Now that you're looking at penalties, or at least warnings, maybe have a look at Michael Tanitsa. He's on 23 seconds worth of penalties. I'm not sure, I'm not too certain when the game does disqualify you, but it might be worth looking at his warnings. I have a hunch it's maybe at 30 seconds worth of penalties. But if he has 2 right now and gets up to 26, then it won't be too much before he comes to 30 and risk that disqualification. Because no matter what, he will fall down to 10th place, but that will still be a point. If he gets disqualified, there won't be any points for him.
Scribble will be getting that point, although I don't really know. Probably not, because he's UID after the first lap, so. Hopefully Michael Tanitsa can sort out. He has 5 more laps to endure. In P9 in a very lonely race for him. It's been a very lonely race for Brownie as well. He's been pretty much by himself, minding his own business, just twiddling his thumbs for the past 20 or so laps, and that looks like it'll continue for the remainder of the Grand Prix, unfortunately. So 2nd place in the championship, not having a very good weekend. I mean, 1st place in the championship, not really having a good weekend. He's still in P4, of course, so it's not that bad, but of course we'll get demoted a few places because of the penalty, and obviously had that contact with Warren, who is, well, felt it more, to be honest. His mistake has cost him more than Tom's mistake. So he's down in P8 and hasn't made any inroads on this 2nd stint, has not really got close to Christian. But speaking of getting close, penalties wise, Christian gets his first penalty of the evening, and that'll drop him behind Warren. But I was going to mention Christian and Rainbow getting close to FK Gaming. This, in theory, is the battle for the final podium position, although it would have been all 3 drivers, but it now will just be between Rainbow and FK Gaming. Because of Christian's penalty, both of which haven't scored podiums, so this will be quite interesting. You can see who will take it. Obviously, will they take it though? Because they are starting to slowly drop back behind the top 4, and maybe Fail might be able to sneak back on the podium. But we have 4 laps to go, and the 1, 2, 3, 4 has been the 1, 2, 3, 4 for the past few laps. And yeah, 4 laps to go, and well, the win might be happening for Andrea. It might come from Paris. If Paris wants this win, he's going to have to make the moves very quickly and very eagerly.
I'm just having a look at who's currently on the fastest lap. It's currently Warren that holds it down in P8, meaning that he will get the extra point for it. But Andrea is quite close with that 126.6, so if he can just have a good lap and use some ERS, maybe use some fuel, maybe he saved his car here for the end, he might be able to snatch it. But seeing as the tyres are beginning to be quite worn for many of the drivers, it's maybe not looking too likely that that will happen. So Warren down in P number 8, instead of getting 4 points, will get 5 points. But I'm sure a driver like Brownie or a driver like Tom would be very happy to pick up those points instead.
Yeah, as it stands in terms of the championship, I think this is going to do well to good for Andrea, who obviously missed the last race. Tanitsa, that might be his final warning before he gets disqualified. 1 more penalty, and I think that'll be game over for him, giving us 3 more laps to endure, thankfully. But on terms of the championship, yeah, Tom will still be leading after this Grand Prix, but Andrea picking up 25 points will put him around 10 points behind Tom. Obviously, we still have to work out where Tom will finish in this Grand Prix. But Andrea 38 points behind coming into this Grand Prix, so we'll probably be around 20 points behind, which is still a decent turnaround. Brownie obviously hasn't had the best of Grand Prix at all. Paris obviously P3 at the moment, P3 in the Drivers' Championship, but we'll lose that P3. We'll gain it. Well, we'll stay in P3. We'll lose it to Andonator and then gain a place on Brownie, and obviously Failer will drop down the order a little bit. He's in P5 in the championship with 62 points. So championship still very close, and hopefully as we get into the latter stage of the season, it can remain as close, and we don't get a championship decider very early on, like we have had in the past few seasons. Here we are, on to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. It is still Undernator leading from Failer, from Paris, from Tom. The top four separated by 1.7 seconds. It's been an immensely close race from start to finish. We've had a few drivers had incidents. Tom obviously making contact with Warren in the early exchanges. Tom obviously going for that aggressive strategy, going from the softer mediums, and he got a great start, got up into P2 on the opening lap, and then tried to get past Warren, and they made contact into Luffield, and Tom had a half spin and was sent round, and obviously that cost Tom dear. And obviously if that hadn't have happened, maybe he would be in a better position than he was, as that's Rainbow and F Gaming dueling for P5 as they go wheel to wheel down towards the Vale chicane. Rainbow on the outside turns to the inside, and if he get a good exit, he will get the job done into club, and he has taken that P5. But look at F Gaming coming right back. Christian's got a great ringside seat to see the action as F Gaming nearly loses it coming out of turn one, and Christian said, "Thank you very much, I'll take that P6 off you." FK Gaming is coming right back at him. This is a great little tussle. Probably would have preferred to see it at the front of the field, but nevertheless, it's still great clean racing from these two drivers. Rainbow emerged victorious out of this. FK Gaming in P6, and Christian still trying to make a move on the German driver around the outside of Luffield. That's very, very audacious. And yeah, I don't think any move was happening for the Ferrari driver, but Rainbow now in P5. Unfortunately, they just haven't been able to keep up with the top four. So, for Failer's case, he will be on the podium. Luckily for him, Tom will just about keep P4 as it stands, but Rainbow could potentially gain a few tenths in the final few corners. The penalties have been a major part of this race, as it has been in the past few races, but not for the race winner. Andre has kept it clean, consistent, and has been impeccable this race, and thoroughly deserves the win that it will take as he crosses the line and takes the Grand Prix win at the British Grand Prix. And as they all cross the line, filter out. Oh, Rainbow did take P4 from Tom, interestingly. 7 thousandths of a second. It's deja vu nearly from last time. However, Tom losing a position, or being behind a driver by 700ths of a second. Unfortunately for Tom there, he loses P4 at the dying embers. But there you have it. Andrea from Paris, from Jan Failer, as we suspected. Rainbow taking P4, head of Tom, head of FK Gaming. Warren, Christian, Michael Senator didn't get to 12 in the end. So that's a mini dub for the Williams driver, but that's been a pretty wretched race for him. And Brownie finishes in, well, P10, but gets promoted because of the multitude of Michael Senator's penalties. And takes P9, and Rainbow driver of the day. Definitely a shout. He had a very good race. But Andrea is definitely going to contest to that as well. Good win for the Mercedes driver. And yeah, very, very enjoyable Grand Prix. And that's one of the reasons why Silverstone is one of the best circuits on the calendar.
Certainly you must say, we've seen this time and time again. This Grand Prix always able to spring up some action. Unfortunately, this time round, we didn't see a British winner, nor a British driver, nor a British team, but they were still represented on the podium, both of the driver and the team, with Andinator taking the win. Then Paris, the Brit driver, on the podium. Then the Brit team with McLaren and Jan Fehler in third place. Then we had Rainbow in fourth, Tom taking fifth with his penalty. Then FK Gaming taking sixth, right behind his teammate. Then Warren taking seventh, Christian taking eighth, Brownie taking ninth, and Michael Tnitzer with 26 seconds worth of penalties, luckily not to get disqualified, takes 10th place. Warren picks up the fastest lap, so he will get that extra point, whilst also getting 7th place, so well done to him. And that fight for the win, that top four, it was fighting all the way through the Grand Prix. Started early on, and then they were just close all the way through, and every time a driver had the opportunity to go for the move, they went for it, and that is what these drivers have shown time and time again that they are able to do.
Exactly, and carry this momentum into the next Grand Prix, which will, I think, pretty sure it'll be at the Hungaroring for round 13, or the official season, round 8 of this shorter season. And Andrea taking another win, what is his second win of the season, matching Paris, and obviously taking his toll, taking his total of points up a notch, and obviously getting that P2 in the Drivers' Championship, which hopefully, after a poor few races really, can maybe challenge Tom at the forefield of the championship, who had I don't think I'll be too pleased with the end result, but obviously can bounce back again next weekend, and hopefully Hungary and Monaco without the barriers, it seems. Don't think we'll be seeing as much racing action as we did tonight, but can still produce an interesting Grand Prix.
Well, you should never rule out the Hungarian Grand Prix. I commentated the F2 race there last night. Plenty of action to spur up, so I'm sure that Hungary will be able to give us a bit of action from these boys. Of course, Hungary also a place that can show us a bit of rain. It's quite high up in Budapest there, and with a river close to it, so some rain always able to happen there. But we will find out if that is the case next week. Next Sunday, same time as always, we'll be back with the Hungarian Grand Prix and even more fighting for the championship. Until then, have a good one and good night.